And yeah, proceeding national silence. But yeah, thank you for coming along today. Um, how are we looking on the numbers? Great. Okay, let's get going. Welcome everyone to today's call. It's great to see you. Just so get the housekeeping notes out of the way, the call is going to be recorded. If everyone is okay with that, there'll be a bit of interaction. Yeah, feel free to share your questions in the chat as we go. The recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and our Lumio platforms after the event. So yeah, feel free to share that with other people in your teams and organisations that can't be with us today. Yeah, we're going to run through till about 1 o'clock and thereabouts. Yeah, so welcome to everyone who joined us today for this first event in our Energy Learning Network series on community finance with our partner Ethex. Yeah, love to see you here today, Lisa. I'm John Taylor, Head of Capacity Building at Community Energy England, and the Energy Learning Network is a UK-wide capacity building programme funded by the National Lottery's Climate Action Fund that brings together the four national community energy member bodies in the UK, along with Ashton and the Centre for Sustainable Energy. Community finance and ownership is at the heart of community energy. It's probably where I first discovered yeah community energy as a concept was looking at pensions and how we were in this catch-22 of people having their savings tied up in fossil fuel companies and but then the security of the planet going forward, we needed to shift those into more kind of sustainable industries. And yeah, taking money out of unethical investments, putting them into ethical investments like community energy seemed a great way to do that. So whether you're an experienced organisation seeking to reach new audiences or a new group that doing your first fundraise, as our members, you've been telling us that this is a topic that you're wanting to get to grips with, especially as the sector's going to grow with the clean power targets and everything. Today we're here to find out about particularly in the innovative finance ISAs and bond platform that Ethex offer, and yeah, how we can transfer those familiar savings like ISAs, premium bonds in the public imagination to more community energy specific products. We can, yeah, like I say, make this conversation as interactive as possible. So if you do have conversation question for Lisa as we go through our conversation, pop them in the Q&A in the chat, and we'll try and get them into the hour. So in terms of introducing Community Energy England, before I bring Lisa in, Community Energy England was founded in 2014 by practitioners within the community energy sector to act as the voice, connect up community energy activity across the country, with that mission of putting people at the heart of the energy system. Our membership has grown over the years to over 320 organisations, the vast majority of them being community energy enterprises, with some supportive stakeholder groups, corporates and councils in the mix as well. All our work is intended to help clear obstacles, create connections between practitioners and stakeholders, and facilitate the work of community energy organisations, thereby benefiting the sector as a whole. We work to make politicians in both national and local governments, as well as the national network operators aware of community energy benefits, the sector's needs and opportunities and policy obstacles. And this ensures that community energy organisations are able to create new projects and play an active and important role in the energy transition. If you want to find out more about our current policy work and activities, please take a look at that section on our website. There's plenty of active consultations, campaigns, and policy responses that you can add your weight to, as well as find guidance and resources for how you can play your part. Okay, so moving on to the conversation today. First of all, thank you for joining us today, Lisa. I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself and please tell us a little about what you do and Ethex as an organisation.
Right. Hello, John. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Ashford. I am CEO of Ethex, which is a what we call it is a direct impact investing platform. What on earth does that mean? Well, it means individuals like you or I who want to invest and align their money with their morals can do so by basically investing in all kinds of great projects on the website, It's very accessible and people can invest from relatively small amounts of money to larger amounts. And we've been around since 2013. We've raised over 120 million in investment, largely from individuals, and supported hundreds of community projects. The vast majority of that 120 million actually has been within the community energy sector, and community energy is something that I'm quite passionate about myself, having tried to get a project off the ground, a hydro project in my village quite some time ago, which went all the way up to the High Court. We won, but it has to date not been built, but that's a story for another day. Yeah, so happy to answer questions, and we're going to have a chat, aren't we, about innovative finance ISAs. I can tell you all about it.
Yeah, great, great, and it's good to hear that you've got some personal battle scars in the community
Oh, yeah.
energy world because yeah, you do have to have some persistence in this, but I think yeah, the kind of upside of getting more people and that democratic ownership of energy is yeah vitally important right now. Yeah, you mentioned innovative finance ISAs, if ISAs there. Can we maybe start with how do they different from kind of traditional ISAs we know them?
Right. Well, let's go up even further just to sort of set the context. So,
Mm.
community energy groups or any sort of community that's looking for to raise investment, often the ways they will go about that is either by doing a community share offer, of which we've listed many hundreds, or more recently, starting to experiment with something which is called the IFISA or Innovative Finance ISA. So a lot of us know ISAs obviously from just standard cash ISAs, for example, or a stocks and shares ISA. Um, there are differences though. So why was the Innovative Finance ISA brought in? Well, really it was brought in to support and provide some tax efficiency for crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending to help promote that sector when it was born, really. And that has become a more widespread used ISA product. There's also other ISAs like lifetime ISAs and junior ISAs as well, which people are quite familiar with. So it's very similar from a sort of investor point of view. You have a certain cap per year that you can invest up to, which for 25-26 is £20,000. And more recently, you can actually split that across different IFISA providers as well. So you can have multiple accounts actually, as long as you don't go over the full 20,000 limit
Okay.
per year. They are also, you can transfer your excess cash. So if you get returns from your investment, that could be held within the IFISA wrapper and it reinvested in different projects, or you can transfer that out and that can count towards an IFISA somewhere else. So as long as you keep it within the wrapper, essentially you're protecting that tax-free investment amount throughout the life that you hold it. So, you know, to benefit from that tax-free investment money, you have to pick a provider, obviously, that utilizes it and familiarize yourself with the types of products that they might list. And in Ethex's case, it has largely been used in the community energy sector. So we can talk about it from the project point of view as well. Why would
Mm.
they choose to do a IFISA rather than a community share, for example?
Yeah, yeah. And that's yeah, there's some points there that I hadn't appreciated in terms of yeah, being able to split it across multiple platforms. So if you're yeah, see some yeah, that's useful to know. Um, yeah, so I guess yeah, the community energy organizations, you have your membership, you have people in your community that you're trying to support your project, and yeah, there's going to be competition, isn't there, for where people put their savings. So you mentioned shares, ISAs, and where, in your experience, how have community and energy organizations used your platform, and which types of products have they used it for?
Yeah. So I suppose, you know, considering I think our first community energy project listed in 2014, I think, um, for for the sort of former years, everybody has used equity community shares to raise finance for their project development. Um, More recently, since IFISAs were launched, organizations have been experimenting, and sometimes they might have a community share offer to build up equity and membership in the organization, but they may also choose to have a bond product, which is a bit like a loan, basically, with a specific term and a fixed rate per year, which is a little bit different to a community share where you have a sort of target return, but the return is based um, on the success of that project delivering each year, and the directors will make a judgment on what that interest return is going to be. For a bond, the return is a little bit more predictable. There might be some discretion there depending on exactly the rules and terms and conditions of that bond, but it tends to be a bit more of a standardized product, if you like. And organizations are using it quite differently. So in some cases, there are long-term bonds which sit under the IFISA in this wrapper, and it has to be a transferable product to qualify under the IFISA wrapper. And some organizations are using it as a short-term debt product, say 2 or 3 years, and I can talk about different examples of that. So I guess when you are thinking about a community energy project, you're always thinking about, well, what finance do I need to make the project work? And in some cases, there might be a bank loan, there might be withdrawable shares and equity that comes in, but they might also want to layer in some forms of debt as well, which perhaps aren't quite as long term as the community shares, which can be, many, many years long. So it's all about, I think, providing flexibility in people's business model uh, to get the right forms of finance to make their project work and to make that financial model stack up.
Okay, so community energy shares, that's more of a long-term thing, commitments, yeah, and that's kind of the longer term product, whereas the bonds, they're kind of a lot more short-term cash flow, yeah, get things built, get some money back out to people a bit faster, and is that roughly how it breaks down?
Well, to be honest, it really does depend on the project. So
Mm.
we have got some very long-term bonds,
Okay.
which are just providing a, annual return to investors, which is just ticking along year on year. So let's think of an example of that. Gorcott Solar, for example, that's got a very long-term bond. And we've got shorter term bonds, such as Energize Barnsley or Solar for Schools bonds, which tend to be within the 5 year term. So, it just really depends on the organization and how they're creating their financial model and what they want to achieve from those different products.
Okay. Yeah, because I think the advantage you have is that you're a national platform as well, aren't you? That's a quite common question I've had is or concern is how are we going to raise all this money from within our community? And I suppose you can do that up to a point, but then you've then also got this national community of ethical investors or people that have a similar kind of so do you feel there's a balance between the kind of local kind of membership versus more national investors too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you look at our investor base, it is spread about all over the place. So we've got investors in, Bristol and Bath area, Brighton, Wales, Shropshire, Manchester, Glasgow. It's a real broad brush. And some of those people will have a specific interest in projects which are geographically close to them. And they might be sector agnostic. So they might be investing in, say, a community energy project and a community land trust, for example, to provide affordable housing. So they might have a geographic sort of demand. And then other people are more sector led. So they really want to support renewable energy and specifically community energy. So they may choose to create a portfolio effectively of different community energy projects around the country. And they might also have a portfolio, as obviously you'd always want to recommend some diversification in your investment portfolio. They might have shares, they might have some bonds, and obviously they'll have other investments perhaps outside of Ethex as well, listed products as well. So they're building up, a nice portfolio. And I guess that's the beauty of a platform like ours. You can use it to pick and choose what you want. You can really understand. Hopefully, we provide all the information in a really easy to understand way, and it's fairly simple to invest through the platform as well. But some projects, just to pick up on your point before, so the differentiation is if you have a share offer, then, as community benefit societies or co-ops rules define, it's a one member, one vote system. So it's highly democratic
Yeah.
and, you're getting some community engagement. With a bond issue, there is no membership. However, there are examples of organisations that have listed a bond product where it's a requirement also to buy a share.
Okay.
So, I know some people think, well, why would I do that? Because I want all of my members to be really engaged. Well, there are ways of doing that as well. So you can be quite smart about it. And you might also choose to prioritize people in a specific area so that, your local investors maybe get first dibs at coming along and investing. Or sometimes people have different minimum share sizes. So, we like to talk to the organisations and really figure out what they want. And we don't say to a project, well, this is what you need to do in terms of, this product, this term, this return. It's really up to, those organisations to come to us and say, well, we're thinking about this,
Yeah.
will this work? We don't have a blanket, product type, if you like, for people. We very much work with organisations so that they get what they need.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, certainly for projects like renewable energy, it's such a capital intensive kind of business model. I guess the cost of that capital is quite influential on the overall business case. So do you work with organizations to work out the best rate to pitch at, or are they coming to these sorts of solutions because it's more competitive than other ways of getting funding?
Yeah, so yeah, really good point. I suppose, it is always a balance between what is affordable to the project in terms of the return that they can give to their investors. versus, what makes sense in terms of what is really going to sell. Because, there's no getting away from the fact that individuals have, choice about where they place their money. And, wider macroeconomic factors change interest rates and change how much you can get for having, £100 of your money in your current account, and what kind of rate you could get on a no risk basis rather than investing your money, which of course we also have to say there's risk attached to investing. So, you know, it's really a conversation, isn't it, about those two sides of things and trying to find something that works for the project and we think will work for investors as well. Bearing in mind, of course, that investors that come to us are investing for impact
Mm.
largely, as well as a financial return.
Yeah, and I've been looking at some of the projects you have on your website, and you're really good at telling that story about what the money is actually going to be doing, which is a connection you don't always get with some other investments out there, which are a bit more of anonymous or just going to a bit of a black pool. Where I think having
Exactly.
that story and the connection behind the project, really, is a really valuable thing.
That is, just to add, is I think one of the, fabulous stories of community energy. Because, here's a little anecdote. I once went to don't ask me why, but I went to a Barclays event, and they were talking about investor trends, and they had a couple of quotes and case studies. And this guy was offered a product, and it was like a renewable energy fund. And he said, yeah, well, that's all very interesting. But at the end of the day, I went and invested in a wind farm that was up the road from me. And it's because people can really feel like they're making a tangible impact, and they can literally go and see it. And they might become members of that organization or have some kind of attendance at the, annual meetings. So that's the beauty, that we need to sing from the rooftops, right? That people can see the benefit and the impact of the money they're investing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then so the money management side of things, if someone comes to your platform, I guess then that's got all the functionality to then, find the projects and then like we've had one of the questions come up in the chat, talking about the transferability, that you mentioned. So does that mean there's a kind of secondary marketplace for people to kind of change them around, or sell them before the end of the term as well? Is that part of what you offer?
Well, I have to say that most people actually tend to invest and then hold their investment.
Mm.
So we don't generally tend to see that much interest in transferring the product. The rules on transferability and providing a marketplace for IFISAs and actually any transferable investment have changed. So it's a little bit more tricky these days. Um, it can be initiated through the back end, but currently we don't have an open marketplace for that because of the regulation in relation to it.
Mm. Okay. Oh yeah, more of a technical question there. Um, so um, let's see. So yeah, if you're a community energy organization, you haven't done this before. How would they go about getting on, or offering a product on your platform? What's the kind of support side from your angle?
Yeah. Well, I should say that we're not a corporate finance outfit. So depending on what the needs are of the organization, they might need some help with that. And the reason why we don't do that is because we can work with anyone and we're entirely independent. Um, so it's very it's very similar to how a community energy project would uh, list a share offer document, share offer project with us as well. So, just come and have a chat. Basically, we've got a really strong investment team, and they'd be really happy to talk through, what the requirements are in terms of project finance and um, what the organisation is thinking in terms of raising finance, size, term, etc. And then we can take it from there. So, it's generally a around 6 week process from start to finish if everybody's moving fast.
Mhm.
Um, and we really would like to be moving that fast. Sometimes there's project delays and things like that, which are outside of everybody's control. But yeah, it's a very easy process to get listed and start raising finance.
Yeah, great. And so that kind in that time period, does that include the time that you're fundraising for as well, in terms of that tracker bar going up to 100% completed? I guess that's always a nervous time for investors saying, "Are we going to hit the target?" But,
Um, I would say that, you know, speed of raise really depends on a number of factors, right? It's how strong is the impact and how well are we telling that story? And when I say we, I mean us and the project.
Mhm.
Um, it is what's the financial return and the term of the product, because those things do influence investors for sure. And it has to be said what's going on in terms of wider externalities, which can affect, how eager people are just generally to invest their money at any one point in time. So,
Mm.
if you're going into a recession, things can slow down a little bit. If, people are feeling quite prosperous, then they want to invest their money and feel quite comfortable doing so. So, it really does depend on what's going on. But those first few factors are the things that really sort of influence the most, how well are you telling that impact story? Good example, Energized Barnsley had a very big raise actually. I think the reason why they were successful was um, because the impact was so strong, because it was helping people in social housing in Barnsley to reduce their energy bills.
Mm.
And it's an area which is specifically struggling in terms of fuel poverty. So, and the impact case studies and talking to individuals and doing videos and things like that really pulls out, drills home, well, this is the impact that your money is having. And that's really, really powerful.
Yeah, I think that's the whole impact side is something that's really unique and additional to the world of community energy versus other forms of delivering these sorts of net zero upgrades, and something we should be doing a lot more to kind of, yeah, make local authorities and government aware of, to kind of, yeah, make more of this approach part of the more central part of their strategies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do you find you mentioned most of them are individuals using the platform, but are other institutions like local authorities or other small businesses able to invest alongside individuals in projects
Yeah,
like these?
absolutely. It could be churches, it could be family offices, it could be foundations, it could be, as you say, small businesses in the area. It really, there's no restrictions there. And we often see those types of organizations investing alongside. And in some cases, we have match funding, which is identified right at the get-go, whether that's something on the share side like Community Booster, or we've worked with some institutional partners as well to invest alongside as a one for one match.
Okay, great. So I think so. Community Shares Boost, is that a Cooperatives UK thing?
It
Or
is, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and so if you hit a certain threshold, then they'll match fund it or kind of.
that's correct on the shared side of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That's good to know about. Um, Take a question from the chat that's come in about the tax advantages of IFISAs. Are there any additional kind of advantages to that? I don't know, perhaps inheritance tax relief, or are there any fees involved in using the platform on the products?
Yes, both good questions. So at this point in time, the investor does not pay any fees for the IFISA. So that's a really good deal, I think. That's one of the benefits of the Ethex platform. Um, so that's really good. And in terms of inheritance tax relief, so that is something which is relevant for community shares. And actually, we have done a blog on that. So we can share the link with you and you can put that out afterwards. And then we can have, information on the IFISA tax relief and information on the inheritance tax relief. But there isn't, there tends to be one form of tax relief per investment generally. So yes, those are different.
So let's take another question from the chat here. We've got Vicky Dunn asking, I know with community shares, the interest is set at the AGM and in theory could not be paid through an explanation that would be owed by an explanation would be owed to the members. What is the situation if the performance is lower than expected and there's not enough money available to pay interest on bonds? Have you come across that scenario?
Um, so that really does depend on the terms and conditions of each bond, which the organisation will have included as part of the bond offer document. So just with community shares, where there are specific terms and conditions relating to each project, it's the same thing on the bond side of things as well. Sorry, that's a bit of a generic answer, but it does totally depend.
Yeah. I think yeah, I think yeah, when we were in the feed-in tariff days, the business models were kind of a lot more predictable than they are now with people trying new business models, different technologies, relying on PPA income. Yeah, so I guess income's a bit more variable these days, but I certainly see the commercial energy sector in technology side, rooftop PV offering really competitive deals at the moment. So hopefully there's lots of workable business practices for community energy initiatives to take off as well. Have you noticed any trends or particular technologies which are favoured more than others? From investors or from organizations using your platform?
Yeah, so just coming back to that first point, I think it's fair to say that, well, actually, so in terms of technology, not really, to be honest. People are still, I think, majority focused around some fairly standard business models. I know that being able to connect the energy to some kind of direct energy demand can boost the economics of the project. I know that people are looking at battery use and combining that as part of the project as well, and having more sort of like multiple layers. But the vast majority of the ones that we see at the moment are still pretty standardized. And when it comes to that point around variability on, income, I know what you're saying. Uh, the investment team here will help stress test the model as part
Mhm.
of the due diligence. So that's something to be aware about. And, again, we'll very much a collaborative process with the organization, many of whom will have already done, different scenarios anyway, low case scenarios. So it's just a case of, bearing that in mind. And on the whole, the community energy sector has got a fabulous track record in terms of organisations doing what they say they will do and providing the returns that they expected. And that is something also to shout about.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, compared to things like stocks and shares ISAs where performance is a lot more kind of market related. Yeah, I always personally never saw community energy as that risky or necessarily even innovative to it seems quite an obvious thing. Everyone is going to pay their energy bills. It's one of the basics in life. So yeah, I think there's been a bit of chatter, hasn't there, about Rachel Reeves trying to move people away from cash ISAs more towards these kind of stocks and shares products. But would IFISAs benefit from that shift as well, do you think? Is there an opportunity there for community energy to pick up some of that kind of shift in investment if we can bring forward more projects?
Yeah, I mean, I guess all of this is about awareness. And, we are still, talking as myself as part of this, space as well. We are still, relatively speaking, quite niche. And what we need to do is really break out of that.
Mm.
And community energy needs to be on the same scale and have the same recognition as it does in Europe, and in your energy learning network, the last report that was done, which Saskia wrote, there's some great comparisons there, aren't there, between, what some of the European cooperatives have managed to achieve, which can you imagine if we could, scale it to that level, it would be amazing. But we've got to have um, a helpful push in the right direction. And, certainly Treasury and government can help a lot in that regard. So, it's up to Community Energy England and people like us to help advocate for that, isn't it? So,
Yes, quite, yeah. Yeah, shout out to Saskia, just linked the report in the chat
yes,
there.
thanks.
Thanks for that. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, we've done some work with Rescoop to knowledge share with other European community energy organisations and people like the Danish Embassy. There's a lot of cooperative and municipal ownership of renewable heat networks out in Denmark and community ownership of onshore wind, where I think they do in Germany, where they do have a very embedded regional banking and investment sector.
Right.
So there's certainly lessons we can learn from the continent about how we can make this more of a kind of broader market appeal product and bring more people into the community energy investment world. So
Completely agree.
yeah, interesting on that kind of international theme. I've got a question in chat from Chris Richards. Is it possible to link a project across Energize Africa and Ethex? Is that ISA eligible too?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Energize Africa is our sister platform, and that's backed by UK aid, and it's to accelerate energy access in sub-Saharan Africa. And actually, in on that platform, all of the products are IFISA eligible because they are only bonds, and that is bonds um, issued by solar companies in Africa. The IFISA wrapper, as it's our sister company, isn't the same, but you can easily transfer between the two. So, and now because you can have multiple IFISAs, that's quite easy for us to do.
Yeah, I think again, potential to share that cooperative business model into the international development sector as well. I think there's actually a live consultation the government are doing at the moment to gather evidence about the role community energy can play in and development. So yeah, something to perhaps
Oh,
look into another
note
event
to
perhaps.
self,
Yep, yeah.
send me the link.
Yeah. Yeah, another question from the chat. We've got Joseph asking here, very experienced in the housing co-op sector. So often registered as cooperative societies or similar, and they've issued a form of funding called loan stock. Is that the same? Is that another word for like a bond? Is that a similar product?
Um, so it is similar in that it is a treated as a debt product.
Hmm.
Um, the terms and conditions of loan stock might define whether it's transferable or not, and therefore that would uh, that would suggest if it's basically the same as a bond. So I think in the past, loan stock has tended to be non-transferable. So in that case, it would not be eligible. But there's not much of a leap to make to get from, that one debt product to the other.
Okay. And is there generally, yeah, so the kind of community shares, loan stock through to bonds, is there like a journey people go on? They often do a community share offer first and then move into bonds. Is that?
Um, yeah, I think so
Mm,
because, a new community energy group generally wants to establish its membership base. And they might start with relatively small offers as they start to build out their project pipeline and portfolio. Um, so I think it's organizations as they get more comfortable with building projects, raising finance, they might then start to look at debt products as well as equity products. So, but never say never. Maybe a organization has a specific business model or plan, which would mean they would move straight to debt, but tends to be the case that people build up equity first.
okay. And yeah, so people, I think, yeah, I saw one community share offer recently that's looking to raise around £150,000 mark. Is that kind of what you would see as an entry level kind of offer? Is there a minimum size that would make running this sort of exercise viable or worthwhile?
Well, for community shares, yeah, I mean that's quite a common sort of starter level, I think, for raising finance for their first projects. And that's probably about the low end of what we would raise in one particular campaign.
Mhm.
Um, but that has been done.
Okay, and so they're typically larger sums of money, on the bond side as well, then.
Yeah, well, both sides historically have been, up to 3 million or so.
Okay.
It completely depends. I think probably after the um, removal of EIS tax relief and removal of feed-in tariffs, the average size of an offer has reduced. Um, and actually, in big picture, if we want to really scale up the sector and we want to attract much larger amounts of investment, I think ideally having that EIS tax relief would really, really help kickstart the sector again.
Hmm.
And we definitely saw an enormous acceleration in the early years of Ethex, which was greatly helped by having that tax relief. So it was a great shame when that was removed.
So how does that work in difference to the ISA then as tax relief?
So that would be on equity. So
Hmm.
that would be on the community shares side.
Okay. So there'd be complementary products
Yeah,
potentially.
it could be complementary.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
great. Yeah.
and that would be a real recommendation policy wise, I think, to try and encourage that to be restarted. And it could be just, because I know people are concerned about, improper use of tax reliefs, but, you could target it specifically to community energy rather than wider renewable energy and for community shares. And I think that would work really well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I'd agree, and it's certainly an issue that gets raised by our members quite a lot. So I'd agree with you on that. Um, yeah, that don't want to stray too off, but you mentioned that would kind of need to have a definition of community energy. So is there a kind of specific legal structure or a way of defining community energy that you use for kind of working with people on your platform like this?
Uh, we don't tend to, um, set any limits, but the vast majority of organisations are Bencoms, co-ops, or KICs.
Yeah. Yeah, so certain a social enterprise legal structure that has that social purpose locked in rather than
Right,
maximizing private profit, I guess.
right.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let me just check how we're doing for time. Okay, good. Um, so I think if anyone has any extra questions, please drop them through to the chat. Um, so I think certainly we've got Community Energy Fortnight coming up in a few months in the first week of July, and investment is going to be a theme for us throughout this year as well. So investing money, investing time in community energy. I think we've also going to be working with you on some future events and some toolkits. So you mentioned there's some resources that you have prepared or your team have prepared to support the work. Would you like to go through some of those or explain what's on offer on that side of things?
I would love to, but I don't have details of the final toolkit as
Uh-huh.
yet.
Well, that's
But
well,
coming soon.
I think I've got a list of some of them here. So
Oh, there you go.
let me just scroll down, have a look. So yeah, we got some toolkits in preparation. So yeah, one, raising money for a community energy offer. Another one, using tax efficient instruments to build investor support. So yeah, that IFISA focused one. We'll have another one coming forward, community shares, a powerful tool for raising finance. The Ethex registry and managing your investors, I think that's going to be a really important one, that admin side of
Right.
managing a large membership organization and keeping track of the money. Certainly to me sounds quite a daunting example or process, but I'm not an accountant or a treasurer, but it sounds like you've got a system in place to make that easier for community
Right.
energy organizations to manage the cash flow on that front.
Absolutely.
And there'll also be one about
Summary.
marketing offers as well coming up. Um, and yeah, the support you offer during the fundraising campaign now, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's fair to say that some more commercial crowdfunding platforms, like, I don't know, Seedrs or Crowdcube, as an example, I think you list the project on the website and, it's up to you to do all the marketing and everything.
Yeah,
We don't work like that. We call ourselves a bit of a curated platform. So we do, I would like to say, work with the best projects that are out there. And, we will make sure that we maintain as much as we can a good reputation, because that's really important for giving investors confidence, of course. And we work alongside the project to help build our marketing plan. And, so you don't have to do all of that on your own. And that's part of our value add, really. We're really helping and supporting the projects and hopefully, doing shared learnings like we are with this toolkit as well. So, we're very much ingrained in the sector and we're here to help.
yeah, no, and it's great to have you involved. It certainly makes it a lot more accessible to more organisations to um, do that side of the fundraising and money management side more effectively. Um, have got another question here of David Randall. He's doing a community energy project in partnership with domestic householders who have to borrow to fund their own measures. Do you have any strategies for them and for the scheme managers in general with that sort of setup? Um,
Well, I guess, there's several models which have operated with domestic householders. Energize Barnsley, obviously that's a social housing project, so that's working with the council to help raise the funds up front to do the work. And we have Solar for Schools, which is the model raises finance so that the schools don't have to upfront that cost of putting the panels on the roof. So, the same model, I guess, holds true for if you're working with a collective of domestic householders. You'd need some kind of umbrella community benefit society, which is raising the finance to pay for the panels. And, some of the benefits would have to, and cost savings would have to come back through to give the investor some kind of return.
Mm.
So it's all about stacking that up in a business model and trying to make it work, basically. Might need
Yeah,
some
yeah.
financing, which we haven't really talked about, some grant money as well, possibly. Um, just depends on the scale of the number of households and, what the demographic is.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, certainly things like domestic heat pumps, batteries, making them more affordable and be able to spread the costs with those through financing is going to be a very important way to scale up those technologies for sure. Yeah, blended finance you mentioned. Yeah, I think we've got time to discuss that briefly because I think that's a term that's being used increasingly more and more for projects at the moment. So how would you see these sorts of products fitting under that definition?
Well, you know, I keep quoting Energize Barnsley, but because it's such a good
Mm.
model, there are other community energy projects available. But in that case, I think it was interesting because they needed to raise a certain amount of money. And once they did that, it unlocked a grant,
Mm.
which also contributed to the total raise. Plus, there was some institutional investment as well. So, all that together went to make up the financial model and to make it work. Um, and I think that community energy groups can really use the Ethex platform as a tool to go and talk to organizations that might have grant funding available. So, they could go and say, well, if I match fund it, can you provide X? And, I'll provide Y. That's a really compelling argument
Mm.
to go to funders with, rather than just going, cap in hand, can I have some money, please? Well, actually, if you're committing to make the effort to raise money yourself through investment, then you could have a slightly higher return on the investment, and then if you get the grant money, which is obviously requiring a zero return interest rate, then then you can make the model work.
Mm.
So um, there's another project that's coming up based in Wales, which will have this again this investment being raised, and that will unlock a grant from I can't remember if it's Welsh government or not, but so we're starting to see that being much more common, and I think it's a really useful mechanism.
Mm. No, I think that's a really good use case where it shows that you as a community, you're serious and committed to this sort of approach. And yeah, if you can then use it to unlock grants, lever in additional funding to achieve bigger projects, then
Yeah.
yeah, great. Yeah, related question to that just came in. So could, in theory, yeah, a community use raise loan finance through a benefit society to buy into a new solar farm, like a shared ownership arrangement? So buying into some of these big merchant scale utility projects that we're seeing come up around.
Yes. So clearly uh, there's a requirement to raise finance quite fast in those cases. And this is where perhaps some bridge loan might come in handy, which I know some institutions are either providing or are working on setting up mechanisms for providing. So if a community can get some bridge funding, which might be a bit expensive for them in the long run,
Mm.
but actually it serves the purpose because it's fast money, we can then come in and refinance that out for them. So, they might have a bridge
Yeah.
loan, say it's at, I don't know, 8% or 10%, something like that. Pretty punchy. You wouldn't want to be holding that for a long time, but you then follow on with a series of share or bond offers
Mm.
that can refinance that more expensive debt out.
Yeah.
So that's one model which we see used. Or, it is possible that you could raise a quite short-term bond on the platform that you're using for the same purpose, basically. Obviously,
Yeah.
with both of those models, there is refinance risk.
Mm.
And, we need to be very clear and transparent about that when we're presenting it to whoever the investors are.
Yeah, yeah, and we do yeah, talk to other institutions that can offer that bridge finance that you mentioned there as well, because yeah, sometimes there are just physical realities on the ground that means something has a window to be installed by, and it
Exactly.
yeah, or a professional yeah partner requires a certain level of agility and speed to kind of keep up with their commercial pace of delivery.
So,
But yeah, it allows you to kind of stay in the game, but then refinance through yeah, like I say, these um, Ethex style crowd-funded products that take a little bit longer to raise than.
exactly. And we could do that, over a series of offers over a series of years. So, if we needed to. So I would see those models, we're seeing more of those commercial style models coming forward with community energy groups wanting to play a part. And I think that's brilliant. And we need to jump on that because that's a way of really accelerating the sector, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think yeah, growth and acceleration is yeah, really needed at this moment in time.
Yeah.
I think we're coming up to the end of the hour. Are there any kind of closing remarks or features that you'd like to just yeah, finish off with that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, I suppose just in summary, just encourage people to get in touch with us, basically. And I'm sure our contact details will be part of the follow-up. And, we'd be happy to have a discussion if there's a community energy group thinking about raising finance in this way or traditionally. So, and hope to get all of those tools out soon so that we can, help all these energy groups. So keep on keeping on, everyone, and look forward to maybe having another one of these.
Excellent. No, thank you very much for your time today. Yeah, so this is the first of three, so we will be doing more in-depth dives into that ethics registry service and yeah, the marketing side later on in the year. We'll share dates for those as soon as they're set in stone. Um, so just to wrap up, yeah. So thank you, Lisa, for joining us today, and to everyone who's participated in submitting questions. We'll be sharing the recording via our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer back to anything or share it with anyone who can't make it today. Um, uh, yeah, so we've gone through some of the resources that are going to be made available, like the toolkits alongside this. Um, so just to wrap things up then, so make you aware of some of the events and resources we've got coming up at Community Energy England just to finish off. Um, yeah, we have a national map of projects and locations, which has on average over 5,000 views per month. So if your projects aren't on the map, it's a great way to gain visibility and build your networks. We collect data through our State of the Sector reports that feeds into that, and the Community Energy Fund projects that come through the Net Zero hubs are on there as well. We have a range of resources on our how-to pages on the website, how to go about doing feasibility work for projects, getting to the point where they can go on to Ethex platforms to start crowdfunding and bringing membership money into getting things built, as well as keeping up to date the funding that's available for the sector through our funding pages. We can share these with you in our newsletters and follow-up email. After this, we will send you all a copy of Ethex's new investment toolkits, and we'll be having two more calls coming up later in the year. Before we sign off, I just want to close today's conference by reminding everyone that Community Energy England is a membership organisation working to connect and give a voice to the sector. If you're not already a member, please, we encourage you to join. Membership is open to anyone that shares our vision and is looking to pursue or support community energy. And yeah, we grow our membership through community, public sector, third, and private sector people joining us. And if your organisation isn't yet a member of CE, do please consider joining us. Together, we have a strong voice and we can learn more by sharing with one another, and more connections can be made as we grow our network across the country. And to finally wrap things up, want to make sure you're aware of our upcoming events on the screen now. So our summer conference is taking place on the 1st of July in Bristol. Registration is now open, and if you haven't already registered, please do so. We'd love to see you there. It's always great to see everyone in person and get an update on what everyone is up to, latest developments. The conference is going to kick off Community Energy Fortnight, which runs from the 1st to the 14th of July. That is really the time for you to showcase what you're doing to the rest of the country. We would love for you to consider getting involved. There's information and downloadable resources about how you can organise and promote events alongside us during that fortnight on our webpage. We also have our awards later in the year, and we'll be sharing more about information about that coming soon. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you to Ethex and Lisa for being part of today's conversation. Cheers.
Thanks, John. See you soon. Thanks,
Great. Thank
Kim.
you.